We exist tethered to the constant, relentless forward march of time. Every second is measured, every minute is logged, and the integrity of our reality hinges on this unyielding progression. But what if, without warning, the fundamental continuity of your life, a measurable 60-minute block, was simply gone? Not lost to distraction or sleep, but erased from the recorded timeline of your existence. This is the deeply unsettling reality reported by millions globally, often hastily dismissed by authorities as stress-induced fugue states, mass hysteria, or simply psychological trauma. Yet the vast body of consistent evidence I have compiled points not to psychology, but to a profound physical mechanism, a systemic temporal violation that bridges human biology, advanced military technology, and the very fabric of space-time itself. This phenomenon is known globally as the missing hour. The anecdotal accounts are chillingly consistent and synchronized across diverse demographics. Victims describe a sudden, profound sense of disorientation upon reawakening, often reporting a metallic, ozone-like taste in their mouth and a pervasive, deeply unsettling feeling of being forcibly reinserted into their immediate reality. Their personal timelines are fractured. They check their watches, their digital devices, and confirm the impossible. Exactly 60 minutes have vanished. The global clock ticked forward, the sun rose, traffic moved, but their personal consciousness skipped an entire block of time. The most compelling proof transcends testimony and lies within the cold, objective data of technology. In the pivotal 2018 wave of missing hour events that swept through the American Midwest, civilian researchers cross-referenced hundreds of unrelated reports. The result was terrifying. A terrifyingly precise temporal synchronization, with hundreds of individuals across multiple states reporting the loss of precisely 60 minutes between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. local time on the same Tuesday morning. The official conclusion, mass psychogenic illness, crumbled under the weight of security footage analysis. Commercial surveillance cameras, automated logging systems, and dash cams all show the signature temporal artifact. A camera recording at 3:15:45 a.m. will violently skip to 4:15:45 a.m., bypassing exactly 60 minutes of data. Crucially, the footage itself often contains a brief, often overwhelming flash of intense, blinding white light, a visual splicing effect that suggests the camera's sensor was either momentarily neutralized or, far more chillingly, that the hour it was supposed to record was never physically present in that local reality. The witnesses who do manage to retain fragmented sensory memories speak of a profound, almost hypnotic sense of calm during the transition, a pervasive feeling of peace, isolation, and a gentle, silent transition through a field of pure light. This is not the trauma associated with abduction or panic. It's a terrifying form of induced collective serenity, strategically masking an extreme high-energy temporal violation. My research into this inescapable synchronization led me directly to the concept of chronal resonance. What if the Earth, or an entity utilizing a complex terrestrial infrastructure, is emitting a specific resonant frequency that momentarily dephases entire local regions from the linear timeline? The one common denominator in all major synchronized events is the geographical alignment with specific tectonic fault lines, and more acutely, with a secretive, high-level project linked to the U.S. Department of Defense, specifically DARPA's Kronos initiative and its classified precursor, Project Janus. Part 2. The DARPA Kronos initiative and the geomagnetic fingerprint. The existence of DARPA's Kronos initiative remains classified beyond top secret, but the fingerprints of its objective are clearly visible in the periphery of declassified budget requests regarding advanced temporal spatial calibration and large-scale cognitive timeline integration. The core principle behind Kronos is an act of temporal defiance, the capability to generate a massive localized temporal shield, an energy field capable of neutralizing, suppressing, or removing a specific measured block of time within a designated geographic area. The military objective is chillingly simple:
to perform massive, highly sensitive operations, testing a dangerous new technology, moving critical assets, or conducting an ethically dubious experiment without leaving a single verifiable footprint on the conventional timeline. They can move, act, and manipulate, while the rest of the world remains unaware thanks to the perfect temporal void. The missing hour, therefore, is not the desired effect. It is the catastrophic leakage and residual energy from the temporal shield, a temporal residue that bleeds into the public timeline when the shield is deactivated. My geophysicist colleagues and I conducted an unprecedented analysis of global magnetic field data synchronized precisely with the most significant missing hour events. We discovered an undeniable, recurring geomagnetic fingerprint, a sharp, momentary localized drop in the magnetic field strength corresponding to the hour's removal, followed by an immediate, hyperviolent, and highly localized spike upon the hour's reinsertion. This spike is the temporal equivalent of a catastrophic sonic boom, the consequence of violently snapping reality back into its previous alignment. This fingerprint is the expected signature when a massive, externally generated electromagnetic field, which would be required to create a stable temporal shield, is suddenly and rapidly deactivated. It's the irrefutable evidence that an artificial, energy-intensive event is responsible, debunking any natural anomaly claim. Furthermore, we found that the most densely concentrated missing hour reports correlate not only with seismic hotspots, but also with the routes of specific, highly secure underground fiber optic cable systems and the geographical locations of certain military-linked subterranean facilities. These facilities, disguised ingeniously as weather stations, atmospheric research laboratories, or seismic research centers, appear to house the massive, sustained power generators necessary to run the Kronos shield. The optic cables act as a dedicated energetic conduit, channeling the vast power needed for the temporal manipulation. The victims of the missing hour are simply the unfortunate souls who happen to be within the shield's fluctuating, imperfect boundary at the critical moment of disintegration and violent reassembly. The white light is not mystical. It is the visual artifact of the shield's collapsing, a massive, instantaneous discharge of residual, neutralized temporal energy. And the profound sense of calm? This is believed to be an induced neurochemical sedative response, a deliberate neurological countermeasure deployed by the Kronos operators to prevent mass panic, to ensure cooperation, or, most critically, to prevent the human mind from forming a coherent traumatic memory of the unauthorized military activity that took place during the vanished 60 minutes. It is chemical censorship on a massive scale.
Part 3. The UFO Connection and the Alien Timeline. The conspiracy reaches its apex when we systematically cross-reference the missing hour phenomenon with the other notorious yet highly related global enigma, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, and the classic close encounter abductions. For decades, UFO witnesses and alleged abductees have consistently reported experiencing missing time, periods of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or even several hours that cannot be psychologically or chronologically accounted for. While traditionally attributed solely to alien technology, what if this phenomenon is actually a shared temporal vulnerability exploited by two different, possibly rival entities? My theory posits that UAP/alien technology operates on an inherently nonlinear, multidimensional temporal frequency. Their very presence causes a spontaneous, localized disturbance in the human perception of time. But the most alarming reports are those where a UAP sighting and a large-scale missing hour event perfectly coincide with the unmistakable DARPA geomagnetic fingerprint. Case file: The Red Desert Flicker, 2021, Nevada, adjacent to restricted airspace. A convoy of civilian trucks recorded a massive, silent, triangular UAP hovering over a remote highway. At the exact moment the UAP rapidly ascended, all dashboard cameras recorded a synchronized, clean jump from 2:37 a.m. to 3:37 a.m.
the missing hour occurred precisely when the UAP disappeared. Our analysis, drawing on regional power grid fluctuation data, revealed the telltale DARPA geomagnetic fingerprint, a massive, rapid power surge and collapse. This correlation forces us to consider a terrifying dynamic, one of cooperation, or more likely, competitive temporal warfare. Hypothesis A: the reverse-engineered technology. DARPA's Kronos initiative did not invent the temporal shield. They reverse-engineered the foundational physics from UAP wreckage recovered at incidents like Roswell, where the infamous Kecksburg crash. The missing hour is a failure of their unstable replication, a cheap terrestrial imitation of the alien ability to seamlessly manipulate local space-time. The white light is the inferior, unstable military product failing catastrophically. Hypothesis B: the defensive temporal countermeasure. The UAPs are fully aware of the Kronos initiative's operations. The synchronized missing hour events are actually DARPA's desperate defensive strategy. Whenever a UAP is detected entering restricted airspace, specifically areas near sensitive facilities, the military preemptively triggers the temporal shield, not to attack the UAP, but to shield the entire region and prevent detailed observation or communication. The UAP is not causing the missing hour. DARPA is triggering it to mask their response to the UAP's presence. This defensive theory fundamentally reframes the entire abduction narrative. If the missing hour is an induced chemical sedative response to prevent memory formation, then the classic abduction memories, the sterile rooms, the strange procedures, the loss of personal items, could be carefully constructed false memory implants designed to fill the temporal void. The operators of Kronos may be inserting alien abduction scenarios as a sophisticated psychological smokescreen to prevent victims from recalling the true, potentially more dangerous military activity they observed or participated in during the vanished 60 minutes. The missing hour is the resonant frequency of two opposing timelines clashing: the predictable linear timeline of human civilization and the chaotic, nonlinear timeline of those who operate outside the established physical laws of our universe. Part 4: the cognitive rewrite and the fear of knowing. The sinister implications of the missing hour extend far beyond basic time manipulation. They directly invade the sacred territory of cognitive control and reality manipulation on a mass scale. What is the physiological consequence for the human mind when an entire hour of lived experience is erased? Neuroscientists working in the fringes of academic dissent suggest the mind is not simply blank. It undergoes a forced, chaotic, and destructive process called cognitive timeline rewriting, CTR. When the shield collapses and the external timeline is violently reinserted, the brain detects a profound and intolerable temporal dissonance. It frantically scrambles to fill the 60-minute experiential gap. Because the brain cannot tolerate a void in its continuity, it pulls resources from its earliest memories, often primal, emotionally charged events, or, most dangerously, from external, subtle suggestions introduced during the vulnerability phase. This vulnerability is the true power of the Kronos initiative. The induced calm and the subsequent memory voids place the victims in a temporary but profound state of cognitive vulnerability. This raises the most terrifying question. During the missing hour, are the victims merely being contained, or are they being observed, interrogated, or perhaps even subtly reprogrammed? Are the operators inserting basic behavioral commands, political biases, or even false personal memories into the minds of the populace? If they can wipe 60 minutes, they can implant 60 minutes of synthetic, controlled experience. The missing hour is not just a temporal gap. It is a strategic window of psychological opportunity for mass social engineering. The few individuals who possess a naturally high cognitive resistance to the CTR process, the so-called temporal resistors, often suffer from extreme chronological anxiety, feeling constantly out of phase with the rest of the world. They experience moments of temporal lag, perceiving events fractionally before they actually happen, or suffering from brief visual distortions where reality looks like an unstable video stream, a continuous buffering problem. These are the people who glimpse the truth during the white light flash, something the military desperately needs to suppress. One of the most compelling pieces of physical evidence for the cognitive rewrite is the phenomenon of unclaimed objects and anomalous scars. Following a missing hour event, victims frequently report finding small unfamiliar objects, a peculiar metal washer stamped with non-standard military numbering, a small piece of stone with an impossible, non-Euclidean geometry, or a key that fits no known lock. These objects are believed to be temporal ballast, physical remnants accidentally left behind by the Chronos operators, proving that objects physically moved and interacted with the environment during the missing hour, even if the memory did not. Furthermore, some victims wake up with microabrasions or small precise scars on their bodies that defy explanation, silent, physical proofs of their unseen activities. The missing hour phenomenon is a devastating proof of concept that our reality is not fixed, our memories are not sacred, and time itself is simply a controllable dimension accessible to those with the technology and the audacity to exploit it for global psychological control.
Part 5. The Global Cascade and the Final Anchor. The Chronos Initiative, initially confined to secret military testing grounds, is now rapidly approaching a state of global temporal cascade. As more temporal shields are activated worldwide, perhaps by rival nations who have also reverse-engineered the UAP technology, the temporal debt to the linear timeline grows geometrically unstable. The Earth, as a massive geophysical gyroscope, relies on the consistent linear flow of time for its own physical stability. When localized zones are repeatedly removed and reinserted through massive energy expenditure, it causes increasing global temporal strain and severe physical anomalies. We are already beginning to see the systemic symptoms of this global strain. Mass clock drift and digital erosion, unexplained rapid deviation of highly precise atomic clocks across major financial and defense centers. Furthermore, mass sudden corruption of digital archives, the digital rot of the temporal age. Increased tectonic and atmospheric instability. Tectonic plates exhibiting erratic, non-predictable movements that defy known geological models, a direct side effect of the geomagnetic stress. Atmospheric phenomena such as sudden, hyperlocalized superstorms become common. The echo minutes and temporal overlap. Victims who now report losing more than an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, or even a full 2 hours, suggesting the temporal shield technology is becoming increasingly desperate and unstable. Disturbingly, some are reporting brief moments of temporal overlap, seeing two versions of reality simultaneously. The ultimate goal of the Chronos operators is not military dominance, it is absolute temporal sovereignty, the ability to control and edit the past and future. If they can perfectly control the missing hour, they can systematically create the perfect future by removing every hour containing a political mistake, a financial disaster, or a critical technological failure. They seek to build a history free of human error. But there is a potential countermeasure rooted in collective human consciousness, the temporal anchor. The human mind, despite its engineered vulnerability, remains the best natural defense against this temporal manipulation. If a large number of people could collectively and consciously focus on a single, shared, undeniable cognitive artifact during the onset of the white light, a specific piece of music,
a complex geometric pattern, or a powerful universal emotional memory, they could potentially overwhelm the neurochemical sedative and provide the brain with an unshakable external reference point to resist the cognitive timeline rewriting. They must anchor their reality. The missing hour is the ultimate threat to free will and the integrity of human history. It is the sound of a timeline being rewritten by forces unseen, forces operating in the silence, in the induced serenity, and in the blinding white light of a stolen 60 minutes. The question is no longer, where did the hour grow, but what did they program you to believe while it was gone? And what are they preparing to do with the hour that is about to vanish next? The clock is ticking, but the time you think you have may already be an illusion. You must learn to remember the moment before the light comes. That may be the only genuine memory you have left.